Hi, I'm Bella, a 31-year-old woman navigating the often rocky terrain of romance. Life took a tough turn when I ended my relationship with an unfaithful ex. So when my friend Charlotte invited me to her party, it felt like the perfect chance to escape the complexities of my personal life. I manage an upscale boutique in the city, a chic destination for shoppers who aren't deterred by high prices. When I arrived at Charlotte's apartment, it was alive with vibrant music and animated conversations. As I stepped inside, I immediately sought a quiet corner to collect my thoughts. Just then, Charlotte spotted me and came rushing over, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "Bella, you made it! There's someone I really want you to meet. He's totally your type, deep into the finance world," she shouted over the music, tugging me through the crowd. Before I knew it, I found myself face to face with Thomas, a tall man exuding confidence, his smile hinting at an easy charm. "Bella, meet Thomas. She runs the trendiest boutique downtown." Charlotte introduced us with an enthusiastic wink before vanishing into the sea of partygoers. Thomas offered a firm handshake, his interest clear. "A clothing store. Huh, that sounds like a blast. I work in finance, corporate investments and all that," he said, his voice dripping with confidence. I nodded politely, secretly wishing to steer the conversation away from shop talk. As he leaned in closer, he said, "How have I never run into you before? A beautiful woman like you is hard to forget." I took a small step back, raising an eyebrow, probably because I spend more time among fabric swatches than at finance galas. We quickly shifted from work to personal interests, and I was surprised to find myself warming up to him as we chatted about my love for vintage jazz records and weekend thrift store adventures, topics I never expected to enjoy discussing with someone in finance. Thomas was more than just a good listener. He was genuinely engaged, sharing his own tales of scouring the city for the best music venues. As the night wore on and the party began to wind down, Thomas checked his watch and then looked back at me. "I didn't intend to spend my entire evening with someone as captivating as you. Can I see you again?" A flicker of my recent breakup crossed my mind, making me pause. "I'm not looking to rush into anything new," I admitted. "No pressure. What do you say we keep it casual? Maybe some coffee and music? I know a great spot with live jazz on weekends," he suggested. The idea of seeing Thomas meant stepping into a whirlwind of jazz-filled evenings and spontaneous city explorations. Our casual meetups gradually turned into something deeper, even though I had made it clear from the start that I wasn't ready for a serious relationship. Yet, every moment spent with him subtly chipped away at my defenses. One crisp autumn evening, Thomas called, his voice brimming with excitement. "Hey, Bella, slip into that gorgeous red dress you love. I've got a surprise for you." My curiosity was piqued, and I joked, "I'm in, as long as this surprise involves some good food. I'm starving." He chuckled on the other end. "Trust me, you won't want to miss this." We met outside my boutique, where Thomas leaned casually against his car, looking effortlessly stylish as if he had stepped out of a fashion magazine. "Ready for your surprise?" He grinned, holding the door open for me. The drive was filled with light-hearted banter, keeping me entertained while also leaving me slightly on edge as he kept our destination under wraps. We finally arrived at a charming jazz club nestled in the heart of downtown, its warm, inviting glow promising an intimate evening. As we were shown to a cozy table near the stage, I noticed that Thomas seemed more captivated by me than by the live band setting up. Midway through a soul-stirring saxophone solo, he leaned in closer, his expression turning serious. "Bella, I know we agreed to keep things light, but I need to be honest with you." I took a nervous sip of my drink. "Honest about what?" He reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, elegant box, opening it to reveal a simple yet stunning ring that shimmered in the dim light. "I'm crazy about you, Bella. I don't just want to hang out or casually date. I want it all, everything with you. Will you marry me?" For a moment, I was speechless. the music around us fading into a soft blur as I searched his hopeful eyes. Then, my pragmatic side kicked in. Thomas, this is huge. You know I'm hesitant about diving back into deep waters. I know, he rushed, gently squeezing my hand. But think about it. We're great together. You laugh at my jokes. I've learned to appreciate art because of you. And even if neither of us can dance, who cares? What more do we need? His light-hearted yet sincere words made me laugh. Maybe just a bit more practice on the dance floor? Anything, he replied, a broad smile lighting up his face. So, what do you say? Looking into his eyes, a warm feeling spread through me. Maybe, just maybe, this was right. Yes, I whispered, a surprising lightness lifting my spirits. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto my finger, and we celebrated in the only way we knew how, staying until the club closed. Lost in conversation and dreams of our future adventures, the next day dawned bright, filled with new possibilities. Thomas was eager to introduce me to his mother, Mrs. Susan, so we arranged to meet for brunch at her favorite quaint cafe. Her reception was warm and welcoming. Oh, Bella, I'm so thrilled Thomas found someone like you. I just know we're going to be great friends. As we settled in, she shared anecdotes from Thomas's childhood and even promised to give me her secret lasagna recipe, which he adored. The day unfolded comfortably, weaving new family ties. If you want to win him over, just bake his favorite treat, a chocolate pecan pie. It works like a magic spell, just like it did for his father. Our brunch was a delightful whirlwind of laughter and shared memories, pulling me deeper into Thomas's world, a world I was gradually falling in love with. One day, I decided to show Thomas my childhood home, which felt like a significant step. The house was a grand structure, straight out of a fairy tale, a testament to my father's savvy in the stock market. As we approached, Thomas's awe was palpable. Wow, this place is incredible, he exclaimed, his eyes wide with childlike wonder. Yeah, Dad's done well, I replied, trying to keep my tone casual, even though pride bubbled up inside me. Once inside, Thomas was the perfect guest, politely asking about the artwork and antiques, clearly impressed by the details. My parents took to him immediately, especially when he and my dad bonded over finance and investments. Meanwhile, my mom gave my hand a reassuring squeeze. He seems like a good man, Bella, she murmured, very attentive. I smiled, pushing aside a nagging thought that his interest might be more in the lifestyle my family led than in me personally. As we left, Thomas buzzed with ideas. One day, I'd love a place like this. Just imagine the parties, the guests, he mused, lost in a daydream. I gently brought him back to reality. You mean the kind of home we could create for our kids, right? His quick correction came with a sheepish smile. Of course, that's exactly what I meant. Our kids would love it, wouldn't they? Definitely, I replied, though his initial comment echoed in my mind more than I wanted it to. Fast forward to our wedding day, a simple, intimate ceremony in a local garden, surrounded by our closest friends and family. Any jitters or doubts I had faded in the face of sheer joy. As I walked down the aisle, Thomas's radiant smile melted away my worries, affirming our future together. When we were declared husband and wife, our celebration unfolded just as we had envisioned, relaxed, filled with laughter, and surrounded by those we loved. My father raised his glass in a toast to Bella and Thomas. May your life together be as beautiful and enduring as this day. Remember, the best things in life aren't things, they're the moments and memories you create together. As the evening progressed, a deep sense of contentment enveloped me. Despite any future uncertainties, I felt ready to face them with Thomas by my side. Life after the wedding became a whirlwind as we adjusted to married life, learning and adapting to each other's habits and routines, building our new life together step by step. Then life threw us a curveball, my dad's sudden illness. The man who had been our family's rock was diagnosed with cancer, and it felt like it came out of nowhere. During those long hours at the hospital, my dad, wanting to make the most of our time together, chose a quiet moment for a serious conversation. Thomas had stepped out to grab coffee, and when he returned, he found us deep in discussion. "Bella, there's something important I need to talk about," Dad said, his voice weaker than I was used to. He paused, gathering his strength, and continued. "I've made some decisions about the estate. You're going to inherit $20 million. The room fell silent, the beeping of hospital machines sounding far away as his words sank in. It was a staggering amount, and even Thomas's expression shifted when he sat down, nearly choking on his coffee. "Wow, that's a lot of money," he managed, visibly trying to maintain his composure. I could see the gears turning in his head, his expression shifting from surprise to something more calculating. "Yes, it's a big responsibility," I replied, suddenly feeling the weight of it all. "It's not just about the money, it's about honoring Dad's legacy and managing everything responsibly." Dad nodded, looking relieved that I understood the significance of his decision. "I trust you, Bella. You know what's important," Thomas chimed in quickly. "Of course, we'll take care of everything, sir. It's what's best for our future, right, Bella?" The inclusion of "we" made me uncomfortable. This was about my responsibility, not ours. "Sure," I said, though my mind was racing. This conversation wasn't going the way I had hoped. After that day, Thomas's approach to our financial discussions shifted. He started bringing up investments and real estate more frequently, discussing what we could do with my inheritance. One evening over dinner, he broached the topic again. "So, I was thinking about the money," he began, getting straight to the point. "We should start looking into some properties, maybe even some high-yield investments." I pushed my food around my plate, my appetite evaporating. "Thomas, can we slow down a bit? This isn't just free cash to throw around. It's my dad's hard-earned money. We need to be careful and think things through." He looked taken aback but quickly regained his composure. "Of course, I understand. I just think it's a great opportunity to grow our assets, to ensure we're set for the future." The word "are" hung heavily in the air, presumptuous and unsettling. "Yeah, I get that. But let's just handle one thing at a time, okay? My dad's still here, and that's what matters most right now." Thomas nodded, but the eager glint in his eyes didn't quite match his agreeable tone. "Sure, Bella, whatever you think is best." The weeks following my dad's passing were among the hardest I'd ever endured. While the world seemed to move on, I felt stuck, my grief a constant shadow. Thomas and his mother, Mrs. Susan, were around a lot, supposedly to support me. One night, their true intentions became painfully clear. It was late, and sadness weighed heavily on me. Mrs. Susan offered what seemed like a kind gesture. "Bella, dear, you look exhausted. Why don't you take one of these sleeping pills? It'll help you rest," she suggested, extending a small pill toward me. "Okay, I'll think about it," I muttered, hesitant. I didn't want to blur the edges of my memories of Dad with drug-induced sleep. She shrugged, placing the pill on the kitchen counter. "I'll be in the living room if you need anything," she said, her voice almost cheerful. I nodded, pretending to head to my room, but my mind was alert, wary of the unfolding situation. Something didn't feel right. Maybe it was a gut instinct, or maybe just plain curiosity, that kept me from taking the sleeping pill. Instead, I silently made my way back to the living room, the icy floor sending shivers up my spine and my heartbeat echoing in the hushed silence of the night. As I crept closer, their voices, initially a soft murmur, grew clearer, and I concealed myself in the shadows. Are you sure she took the sleeping pills? She's been so resistant lately. Thomas's voice carried a frustrated edge that sent chills down my spine. Mrs. Susan responded with unnerving calmness. Give it time. She's vulnerable and grieving. Now's our chance to push things forward. That money shouldn't just be sitting around. Yeah, and honestly, I'm tired of this act of playing the supportive husband. Once we have the cash, I can move on, maybe find someone younger, more fun. His words struck like a cold blade, freezing me in place. Shock constricted my chest. This was not the man I thought I married. This was a stranger plotting with cold, calculating ease. Mrs. Susan's chilling laugh followed. Just make sure I get my share, perhaps that new house or the cute convertible we saw. Of course, Mom. You'll get whatever you want. Bella's too naive to catch on before we clear her out. My hands trembled as nausea washed over me. How could I have been so deceived? The love I thought we had, the very foundation of our marriage, it was all a cruel setup. Quietly, I retreated to my room, locked the door, and sat on the bed, my mind racing. They were scheming against me, planning to strip me of everything. I spent the night awake, plotting my next steps. The following morning, I joined Thomas and his mother for breakfast, feigning normalcy despite the turmoil inside me. They exchanged knowing glances, their smiles sharp and predatory. Thomas broached the subject of my inheritance again. Bella, we really need to start looking into those investments. It's what your dad would have wanted to secure our future. His words twisted in my stomach, but I managed to maintain a calm facade. I'll think about it, Thomas. Let's wait to see what the lawyers recommend on how to handle everything. The ensuing days were among the toughest I'd ever faced. I played the part of the grieving daughter flawlessly while keeping a close watch on Thomas and his mother as they plotted with my inheritance. Mrs. Susan was unashamed, openly browsing for new houses and cars as if the money were already hers. Meanwhile, Thomas seemed to vanish. He worked late, returned even later, and was constantly glued to his phone. One evening, as Thomas showered, his phone buzzed incessantly on the nightstand. Without thinking, I glanced at the screen and saw a message from another woman, flirty, intimate. A wave of anger and relief washed over me, anger at the betrayal but relief because it confirmed my suspicions. A cheater in one part of life is likely a cheater in all. That weekend, I told Thomas the first needed space to clear my head and planned to visit my mom. He barely acknowledged me, mumbling an absent approval while distracted by his phone. Driving to my mom's felt like escaping from a prison. As soon as I arrived and saw her, the weight began to lift. I spilled everything, the overheard conversation, Thomas's late nights, and the flirtatious messages. Initially shocked, my mom's anger quickly flared. That rotten scoundrel, she exclaimed, pacing the kitchen in fury, playing happy families while scheming behind your back. Her support felt like the strength I needed to confront the situation and protect myself from further deception. Then, unexpectedly, my mom's anger dissolved into a deep, hearty laugh that echoed through the kitchen. Oh, Bella, they think they're playing a smart game, but they've got a rude awakening coming. Just wait until the will is read. They won't know what hit them. Her confidence was contagious, and for the first time since that dreadful night, I felt a glimmer of hope. So, we just wait? That's the plan? I asked, still a bit unsure. Exactly, she confirmed with a nod. Let them build their castles in the air. We're about to ground them. Back at home, Thomas hadn't moved an inch, still engrossed in his phone, likely messaging that woman. But it didn't bother me anymore. I was armed with a plan and the truth on my side. That night, I went to bed not with a heart heavy with dread but with a mind alive with strategy and the sweet anticipation of justice soon to be served. The day to read my dad's will finally arrived, slicing through the tension in the lawyer's office like a knife. Thomas and his mom were visibly thrilled. practically vibrating with excitement, convinced they were about to inherit a fortune. I sat calmly, almost enjoying the build-up, knowing full well the dramatic twist that was about to unfold. Thanks to my mom's earlier hint, we all gathered in the small, stuffy office, the air thick with anticipation. Thomas kept checking his watch, and Mrs. Susan tapped her foot incessantly, as if they were on the brink of winning the lottery. Mr. Vincent, the lawyer, cleared his throat and opened the thick folder before him. Thank you all for coming today. As per Mr. Jason's wishes, I will now read the last will and testament. Thomas leaned forward eagerly, perched on the edge of his seat. His mother muttered, "Here we go," rubbing her hands together as if preparing to unwrap a lavish gift. Mr. Vincent waded through the preliminary legal formalities before reaching the crux of the matter. To my daughter Bella, I leave the sum of $20 million. Mrs. Susan let out a small squeal of delight, and Thomas shot me a look that was probably intended to be comforting but came across as smug. I remained expressionless, my gaze fixed straight ahead as Mr. Vincent continued. However, it must also be noted that along with this inheritance, there were debts incurred by Mr. Jason amounting to $25 million. The room fell into stunned silence. You could have heard a pin drop. Thomas's expression quickly shifted from smugness to shock, his face paling in disbelief. His mother was livid. This must be some mistake. We need to see the documents, the proof. Mr. Vincent, ever the professional, began distributing copies of the financial statements and debt notices. Everything is documented here. If you have any questions, you can consult with your legal advisor. As the weight of reality settled in, my mom stood, her voice calm yet piercing in the tense air. Thomas, you need to understand that my husband had a weakness for gambling. He made debts, borrowed from people, from banks. I hope you'll be noble in this situation and help Bella with these debts. Thomas and his mother looked as if they had been struck. Their initial shock quickly morphed into outrage. Help pay the debts? Are you out of your mind? We're not paying for anything. Their protests filled the room, but I sat quietly, the chaos unfolding exactly as I had anticipated, with a stoic calmness, fortified by the foresight of my mother's advice. I remained composed. We hadn't spent much time with Thomas's mom, but when we did, she quickly dropped her polite act. I could see the change in her demeanor. Her earlier friendliness was completely gone. Thomas, sensing the tension, also seemed eager to disengage from the situation. I want a divorce, Bella, he said coldly, and in the divorce, we agree that neither of us will claim any money or property from each other. That's it. I stared at him, feeling a confusing mix of relief and disgust. Okay, Thomas, if that's what you want, I agree. We can get the divorce papers ready. As we walked out of the lawyer's office, I felt the tension between us, each of us holding on to our own emotions. Thomas and his mother stormed out, fuming and defeated. My mom squeezed my hand and gave me a reassuring look. It's going to be okay, Bella. We're better off without them, she said softly, trying to comfort me. After we signed the divorce papers, Thomas and his mother couldn't help but show their true colors one last time. As we left the lawyer's office, I heard them snickering behind me. Thomas's mom smirked and said, "Well, at least now she'll be drowning in her father's debts, $1 million in the hole." Thomas laughed, looking back at me with a mocking grin. Yeah, good luck dealing with that mess, Bella. Despite their words, I couldn't help but chuckle, which seemed to confuse them. Thomas frowned and asked, "Why the hell are you laughing?" That's when my mom finally spoke up. She had been quietly observing everything, but now she was ready to set the record straight. "Thomas, you've got it all wrong," she said calmly. "I've been the one managing our finances all along. Your father-in-law, bless his soul, wasn't the financial wizard everyone thought he was. The smug expressions on their faces faltered. "What are you talking about?" Thomas's mom snapped, her annoyance clear. My mom smiled, her gaze steady and unwavering. "I'm the one who made all the successful investments and stock deals. My net worth is around $66 million, so I can cover Bella's inherited debts without breaking a sweat." Thomas's face turned pale as he processed this information. "Wait, what? Are you serious?" "Yes," my mom replied, her tone unwavering. "And since I'm in a generous mood, I've decided to give Bella a beautiful house, one that she won't have to share with anyone, especially not a gold digger." The shock on their faces was priceless. Thomas actually dropped to his knees. His previous arrogance vanished. "Bella, please. I didn't mean any of it. I was just mixed up." I turned my back on him, leaving him and his mother stunned and struggling to comprehend the revelation. As we walked away, I decided to block their numbers on my phone. I wanted nothing more to do with either of them. Weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Thomas was in trouble. His debts had caught up with him, and the loan sharks were after him. He tried to reach out, sending desperate messages through our friends, begging for help, but I didn't waver. When a friend relayed his pleas to me, I simply said, "Tell him I wish him the best of luck." That was the most support I could offer him.